Is it possible to have a device completely change your mind? After my experience with the Meta Quest 3, I can confidently say yes. If you caught my initial review of the Meta Quest 3, my first impressions, I guess I wouldn't really call it a review, you know I wasn't its biggest fan, especially when it came to kind of its flagship feature was the fact that it had this mixed reality, better cameras. You know, I was pretty hard on it in that initial first impressions. I just didn't see it. However, after giving it more time and really exploring its potential, really diving in, plus a couple updates have happened since the device first came out, I've now become a firm believer in what Meta is trying to achieve when it comes to mainstream VR, AR, and MR. And so today, I'm going to take you through my journey from disappointment to enthusiasm, and I'll explain to you why I think the Meta Quest 3 might just be the VR headset that brings virtual reality into the mainstream. Let's dive in. So when I first got the Meta Quest 3 and I started using it, you know, again, it was a first impressions video in my defense, but I just don't think I gave it quite enough time. I put on the headset, I played a couple games, I tried different activities out, and the resolution was better, but it didn't seem that much better. The Pancake lenses, they were nicer, but they didn't seem that much nicer to justify, if you had a Meta Quest 2, to go out and drop another $500 on a Meta Quest 3. Although they did release the Meta Quest Elite battery strap that launched with it. However, Meta had a bunch of issues with that when it launched, and I was one of the people affected by that, to where it would not charge all the way for whatever reason. Even when it did charge, like if I didn't use it for a couple days, the battery would drain down to 0. So I'm not quite sure what the problems were with them, but I did end up sending it in. They did eventually say that there was a problem. Eventually they did fix it, but it was a pain in the butt. But anyways, my point being, my initial impressions with it were not positive because, to be honest, I had some issues with it. The pass-through cameras. It was great that they added color cameras. However, the quality of them are not that great. And honestly, I still think the quality of them are not that great for what it is. But I expected it to be HD. I expected it to be at least like 1080p. Now, if you have the most perfect lighting conditions, maybe you have a lot of natural light flooding your room, tons of big windows, doors, whatever, it's definitely gonna look better for you. In my office here, bright lights, 3 lights in each fan. I have 2 fans on the ceiling, 3 light bulbs, max wattage. You know, I get 100-watt light bulbs specifically because I do a lot of recording and stuff back here. I have 2 panels shining on me from here, lighting up my face and stuff. But even with that, like, the pass-through cameras still aren't that great. So then you're saying, well, Derek, it doesn't really sound like you changed your mind at all. You're saying the Pancake lens weren't that much of an improvement. You know, the resolution, yeah, it was a little bit, but not that much. You're still saying the pass-through cameras aren't the best for what they are. But as I've spent more time with the headset, even though they might not be drastic improvements, there are definitely improvements. The resolution is higher, and by having a higher resolution, what that allows is, at least for me, less motion sickness, it seems. I do not seem to get as motion sick in the Quest 3 as I did in the Quest 2. And that is probably not just the resolution of the images that your eyes are seeing, but that's also probably because it's probably better at keeping a higher frame rate because it has a more powerful processor inside of it. I mean, it is definitely a crystal clear image now compared to where sometimes if you really peeked in games, you can kind of see the pixels in the Quest 2. But one additional thing, you know, with the quality of the images stuff is, again, those Pancake lenses. So those Pancake lenses definitely are nice the more I've used them, increasing the overall sharpness of the image. So outside of that, now let's talk about the pass-through cameras. So they are color versus the Meta Quest 2 where they were black and white. The Meta Quest 2 definitely was a lot more fuzzy, grainy, whereas the new ones are in full color and they look sharp most of the time. I mean, it still has some grain and stuff. It's still not perfect. Again, depending on your lighting situation, it can or can't look a lot better. But once you actually use it in terms of like the mixed reality aspect of it, you really don't notice it anymore. And so that's why I say I kind of take it back in terms of that. Like, is it still a little grainy sometimes, especially if you're in lower light? Yes. Even if you're in perfect light, is it still a little bit grainy? In my experience, at least with my headset, yes. I've heard some people say theirs is crystal clear. How? I don't know. Maybe they're playing outside in the middle of the day. I don't know. In terms of the battery life, like I said, just from the headset alone, it does not last as long as my Quest 2. They're saying both are rated at about 3 hours, it looks like. Number one, I've never gotten 3 hours out of either one of them. I'm lucky to get about 2 hours out of the Quest 2, and I would say anywhere from an hour and a half to an hour and 45 minutes out of the Quest 3. However, if you're using the Quest more than that, to where you're using it more than an hour at a time, basically, there is no reason that you would not upgrading like some kind of battery pack. And that's with the Quest 2 or the Quest 3. For example, I have this headset strap and everything. This is by Kiwi Design. I love this strap. This is for the Quest 2. The Meta Quest 3, I chose the Elite strap, and I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't love it, but I will say like it is very sleek compared to the other design. And at the time when this first came out, obviously, there wasn't a lot of options. Kiwi had some options, which again, I've always liked them, so I was actually looking forward to their headset. But the problem is a lot of headsets had an issue where the batteries built into these straps weren't powerful enough and wouldn't charge at a high enough rate, or not charge, but output at a high enough rate to keep the headset charged. And to get started, it was easier just to go with the Meta Quest 3 Elite headset strap. Although, like I said, then there ended up being problems with that one as well, which unfortunately mine suffered as well, and the process for getting it exchanged was not fun. Now, in terms of weight and size, it's definitely smaller, definitely lighter, even with, you know, both of them having the battery bank and stuff on them. The nice thing about the Quest 3, with the better graphics, with the better visuals, or with the Pancake lenses, whatever's causing it to where I'm feeling less motion sickness, that has definitely renewed my interest in playing other games, like Asgard's Wrath 2, Half-Life, how do you say it? Alex? Is that Annex? Alex? Annex? I forget. Because a lot of those type of games where you're moving, you know, there was some games, like I did the Walking Dead game on the Quest 2, and I could handle about an hour to an hour and a half before like I was just getting so much to the point where I was like, I got to be done with this. And again, what you're getting for the price they sell these things at, it's really hard to be mad at Meta. You know, I know a lot of people had issues when they took over from Oculus, but honestly, I think they've done a great job. And call me a Mark Zuckerberg fanboy or whatever, but the alien got to me, man. Because I can see his passion behind this stuff. I can see his passion behind mixed reality and augmented reality and even virtual reality. Like I said, one cool thing Meta just recently did too, and this is like fresh news, it just came out a couple days ago. As of recording this video right now, it just happened like 2-3 days ago, but Meta actually released their Meta Horizon OS, which is basically the operating system that is running on the Quest 2, the Quest 3. They're now basically saying, hey, any manufacturer can run the software on their headset. So now you have all of these, you know, like Pico Labs and stuff, like they've been doing their headset and they've come out with some cool headsets, you know, but the problem with a lot of these companies is they're nowhere near the size to be able to compete with Facebook. And then put it on top of that, you have these small startups who are trying to do cool things, but their headsets end up costing more money because they can't afford to subsidize them like Facebook does. And then on top of that, they have to develop their own full operating system and then try to convince developers to come develop on that. And you might say, well, wait, there's OpenXR. Like OpenXR makes it so it can be used on any platform. In theory, yes, but it's not there yet. So a lot of times developers still have to go in and do a lot of work to kind of port it to each different headset. And you just don't see a lot of companies wanting to spend that type of time in it because VR is still an emerging technology. MR is still an emerging technology. And while there is money starting to pour into it, you know, there's still not necessarily a ton to where these companies can afford to do that. So being able to have companies that can now just focus on headsets, just like you have computer manufacturers that can create computers and then use Microsoft Windows, that's what we're going to start seeing out of the Meta Horizon OS. And so that also means that out of the box, now these headsets like the Pico will be able to have all the apps that are in the Quest store available right there on the Pico as well. So that's what makes it cool. With that said, I'm excited where VR is heading. The Meta Quest 3, while I was a little skeptical at first and didn't think it was worth it, and still, I guess I never did really say like, is it worth it? I just said that you should buy the higher model of either one you buy. But if you were going out to buy a new headset, here's what I would say. Here's where I stand with it now today. What I will say this time is, if you've never used VR, never had a VR headset, and you're looking to get your first one, Quest 2. If you have the Quest 2 and you use it like quite a bit, you know, if you use it once a month, I would not recommend upgrading. If you use it twice a month, I would not recommend upgrading. But if you're using the thing several hours a week for, you know, a couple hours at a time, so maybe, you know, anywhere from 4 to 6 to 8 hours a week, then I definitely think at that point, it definitely starts to become more viable to upgrade to the Meta Quest 3. All right, with that said, thank you guys so much for watching. As always, I appreciate it. If you like videos like this, reviews of technology, videos about emerging technologies, make sure you hit the subscribe button down below, get subscribed to the channel. We always have content like that coming out, as well as gaming content and some other stuff. Would love to chat with you, would love to meet you if you're into VR and stuff. I always enjoy talking about the stuff. So leave a comment down below, maybe just drop, you know, if you got nothing to say, maybe just drop a thumbs up or a, you know, a smiling emoji or something, just to let me know you're here, showing support. You know, maybe I need to come up with like a, you know, throw in the comments, hashtag D Squad.
Don't do that. Please, dear God, do not let that become the thing that... But anyways, if you are a supporter of the channel, I really do appreciate it. Definitely hit that subscribe button, hit the like button on the video, and I will see you guys on the next one. Until then, peace out, everybody. Later, nerds.